Hey friends and family, my name is Skylent, and today we're going to be talking about some sad news and kind of just sort of ranting about the future of collecting card games and where they could go, because we got a new announcement of League of Legends card game a while ago, and now we can play that. So I'm going to be playing that this weekend. If I can, I'll jump into it as soon as possible, and I'll be reviewing it. But this is probably the last CCG that I'll ever cover, because I don't believe in gambling in terms of progression. I don't like that when it's mixed in with microtransactions. It's bullshit, and it really should be regulated anyways. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But I'm kind of looking forward to the game, and we'll see what happens from that. But let's go ahead and talk about the tragedy, and that's going to be Duelyst. So if you watched my videos previously, I put this in a few top 10 lists of like upcoming CCG. Specifically, I actually did tactical CCG, and I'm going to use footage from those list videos as well as my gameplay from that, talking about Duelyst here. Oh man, this game was pretty sweet. I loved the art style, which was mixed medium with pixel art that was fully animated. I was engrossed with the weird esoteric world that they were building here. And also they had like this really pretty digital art. So it was a very colorful, very unique game that was filled with character. As well, I think that it was really not too wild of a game, as in like the board wasn't too big. The mechanics weren't too far out there. It's stuff that you could imagine in Magic the Gathering, which is actually really out there, but like Hearthstone, something like that. But it was put on a tactical board, and then you actually had your general that you could control around, and each one played totally different. But at the same time, if you did play Hearthstone, or a card game that had, I guess, like deck types or generals or classes, then you might feel comfortable with this game. I played Abyssian, that was my favorite. You spawn lots and lots of monsters, you're definitely the summoner, and then you're sacrificing monsters, and you're controlling the board literally by filling up spaces and corralling the enemies. So this was like the tactical card game unit. I had a lot of fun with Abyssian, but this game's gonna shut down. And I was actually planning to jump back into it every once in a while, especially because there was a challenge mode, so you could actually run through. It's not like a campaign like you see in Hearthstone, but you could actually play like these little puzzles. They're little bite-sized puzzles, and that was really, really cool, and we need way more stuff like that in our card games. I know Faria kind of had like a soft sort of campaign tutorial thing, but Hearthstone's campaigns are definitely really like the peak of that, unless you go into the other genre that was spawned from the bosom of the blossoming Hearthstone, and that's, like the card RPGs. So a lot of people are enjoying card RPGs like Slay the Spire. There's a few others. Book of Demons, I think, is soft card RPG. It's kind of half hack and slash, half card RPG. It's pretty weird. So I'm looking forward to trying out some of those games, but in terms of like free-to-play competitive CCG, really, in the end, it was Hearthstone. And then the only competitor that came kind of close, I mean, you could almost say like, well, the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Online, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling is actually kind of like legit and a little bit popular. Yeah, you could count that, sure. And then also, I mean, you have like the Magic card games, but really the only other competitor, at least on mobile, that I've seen and people talk about is going to be Shadowverse. So other than established games, which it is surprising that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still going so strong, I guess its mechanics are just legit, or there's so much creativity in the deck building. There's a lot going on with Yu-Gi-Oh! I gotta admit that. But other than Yu-Gi-Oh!, Shadowverse, and maybe you can count the new Magic game, but people kind of, I don't know, is that hype? Anyways, you pretty much just had Hearthstone, and the only way to break out of that, I felt, was to go into different directions. So we actually did. We had a game like Prismata, which is basically, it's not really even a collecting card game, but it is a card game, and I actually recently put it in a list video. It's a strategy game that's in the form of a turn-based card game, so that's pretty weird. But I've covered so many CCG that I was so excited to play, some that had simultaneous turns, some that were like done in multiple rounds, like The Witcher. Oh man, there was a lot of really cool gimmicks that I wish sustained themselves, but when you try to make a game with this monetization scheme, which is gambling focused, which I don't agree with, you have that progression system, and then they are competitive games. When you focus on these competitive games, unless you go into like single player territory or something like that, you really compete heavily with Hearthstone, even if you do branch out and make a tactical CCG, which I did a whole list of videos on that, and the only two that really showed any promise in the end was Faria, which also proclaimed itself to be an esport, and then Duelyst, which, even if you could consider it a casual game, which it wasn't, a lot of its mechanics were hardcore. It just takes so much time to get into these games. They really compete with all competitive games, And then really your time, the time it takes to craft these cards, get these cards, open the packs, learn to play the game, make your decks. CCG requires so much time, effort, and yes, money to be competitive. And that needs to change. Now, the new League of Legends card game seems to be promising that, but then again, so did Faria. Faria was like, oh, you could just buy, you just buy the box. It was like $20. You get all cards. And then they never promoted their esport. They had issues. I already talked about that. Failure. Duelyst, what was its failure? To be honest, it was a really solid game, but I do think the art style turned off some people, but I think that could have been evaded. We got freaking like RuneScape as an esport game. Okay, there are some pretty janky looking esport games. Melee went on forever, but then again, that was really cartoon graphics. I just think that Duelyst's failure was essentially they didn't promote the game well enough. I guess they didn't self-publish it to a good enough degree. I don't know what to say. Basically, I kept forgetting about this game, even though I put it as #1 consistently in a number of lists. And I was just waiting. Honestly, I didn't even know the game launched. Like, I didn't know it was a full release. I didn't know that this game was so close to shutting down. I thought it had a really consistent player base. And, well, I don't know. I thought it was coming to mobile. I don't think it ever did launch on mobile. That's kind of a big deal. It never pushed itself. I guess they saw, whenever they were making the game that, oh, this game, it doesn't have that much attention. And this genre as a whole doesn't have that much attention. Even though I think Hi-Rez actually looked at Duelyst and was like, hey, let's make a clone of Duelyst, which they did. So anyways, but in the end, Clash Royale is really the game that really pushed. And I don't know if you count that as a CCG. It kind of is. It's like a card game, real-time strategy game. So that game did really well. It's a very creative game. I still don't like the progression system, but a very, very fun game. And Duelyst as well had that same uniquity. So I don't see why it failed. But then again, Faria did as well. I loved Faria. Anyways, I could just name drop all day, but anyways, so why is Duelyst shutting down? Oh, and when is it shutting down? Pretty freaking soon, actually, guys. It's gonna be February 27th. Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you guys don't know, Counterplay Games, so this might actually be attributing to it. Counterplay Games is actually making a new game, which I just recently put as #1 in upcoming hack and slash, and that's a game called Godfall. Yeah, so Godfall looks pretty interesting. I think it's gonna be cool, but it seems like when companies, especially big publishers, whenever they want to push a new game, they really want to put, their manpower. They want to transition them into that new game. They want to kind of cut their losses, or even if they are technically still making money and the game could survive, I guess like WildStar could have still stayed up. It's just they're a big company. They want to focus on big things. It's just not worth their time. So basically they'll just shut it down, even if you think that it should still exist or whatever. So yeah, I do think Duelyst should exist. I don't think really any game should shut down. It sucks. But yeah, Duelyst is shutting down because basically there wasn't enough player attention, though I would think that's their fault. I think inherently it was actually a good game. And also, it's a CCG, so yeah, kind of rough. But then again, Shadowverse came out. Yu-Gi-Oh! Still doing great. Games are coming out and still doing good. Clash Royale, it's possible. But those games, they had like a previous fan base, or they have like a tremendous amount of promotion. Duelyst was a brand new baby, that's true. So I know it's kind of a rough thing to do, but it was a really fun game. And I think that you guys should try it out. Even just dip your toes in a little bit. Even though you won't have all the cards, you can play the little puzzle modes, run through that, play a little bit, some matches if you can find them. There is some genuine fun to be had there. Definitely check out Abyssian. Abyssian is a really fun class. Anyways, I would love a re-release of Duelyst. Duelyst blank, I don't know. If they could even rework it as a single player game, holy crap, like just a bunch of like single player levels, that would be so fun. Put it on mobile. I would buy it. I'd pay $20 for that. But anyways, so yeah, Duelyst is shutting down, but we got new future CCG news, I guess. To be honest, there are a bunch coming out, but I'm not going to do a top 10 list. After seeing how 100% of the games I put on my previous tactical CCG list, upcoming CCG list, all of them basically failed, either shut down or no one talks about them anymore. I think the only one that hasn't is Clash Royale, which I don't even think made those lists. I think that came out a little bit after those, but it would have made the lists. Clash Royale, and then there's a Plants vs. Zombies card game, but nobody really talks about that, but I think it still exists. Yeah, and then of course you have Shadowverse, Hearthstone. Yeah, basically the new card games just don't work out. But we got League of Legends new card game. And I think it could be good. If they make the progression fair, it needs to be fair. And please do not have the main progression be RNG. I think I'm fine to an extent, kind of like how League of Legends does it, where RNG can assist you in the progression, but it is not needed. Also, League of Legends is the type of game where you can just buy one champion and you can main that champion and you can climb all the way up. It's like a fighting game. So you can do that in League of Legends, but CCG, you do need a vast array of cards. You need to constantly be changing around your decks based on the meta. Like it's something that it's a collecting card game you need to collect. So all of these games that have card pack openings, and that's the main focus of the game, that's bullshit, that needs to be regulated, it's toxic, and it perverts the actual gameplay. I want to collect the cards, my dudes. So depending on the monetization, how that works out, then it could be really fun. Overall, the mechanics and things, I honestly don't think it matters. They can make a clone of like auto chess, and it doesn't matter. Change around some slight mechanics, and basically what makes these big competitive games, which all these other games fail at, and why I think League of Legends is going to succeed here, Legends of Runeterra, is mainly because of that publishing push. The like, hey, we're going to make an esport, and we're not just going to bullshit. You know, we're going to make a circuit. We want to, we're going to have teams, like we're going to have players. We're going to support our streamers. We're going to really support the fuck out of this game because it's a 1v1 competitive card game. We know what it is. It's not just, okay, make good graphics. It's not, like a lot of games, even like a lot of these indie games can make good graphics for a card game, It's really hard to, like, coming out of like the Hearthstone area, I guess it's really hard to make an ugly card game in ways. This was kind of like a new thing that not too many games really took advantage of the digital aspect. Hearthstone was one of the first. And from there, we had a bunch that had really good voice acting or animated cards, and it didn't matter. None of that shit matters, actually. Just make a decent looking game. That's it. And it's easy because it's a card game. And then the big thing is you need to keep publishing new cards, new updates, maybe campaigns, do things like that. The arena was a big innovation for Hearthstone. That was a huge boon to the game. Add these social aspects to the game, and obviously have fucking tournaments like all the time. Push that, support it. A lot of these, oh my God, this happens all the time in RTS, in a lot of niche games, arena shooters, in card games, obviously, in so many games. They make it inherently they're competitive games. And then people are like, oh, the competitive scene will grow if the game is good. No, it doesn't. That's bullshit. That's not actually how it works. That only really worked with Melee. And that's because that's a fighting game. That was like that. That's a specific example. People look at certain games like, oh, Halo, grew naturally. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, it did not actually. And even to the fact, Smash did not grow naturally. There were people moving the scene entirely. MLG actually, and it's whatever. We're not going to get into it. But basically, making an esport, it's like this big ethereal meta thing that it seems like a lot of people don't realize is a thing even, but it is. So people like Riot, I think all of their future games will likely succeed. Their fighting game, their CCG, their auto chess, I think all of this is because they support their game, or at least League of Legends. And to the point that they support League of Legends, I do think they're going to follow through. We have to see though. We have to see. Halfway, I guess a company that does kind of bad is Hi-Rez, where they'll have one tournament and then they're like, and then, they'll peace out. They make a kind of a clone-ish game, they do some tournaments, and they kind of half-ass it. But they still at least support their games to an extent until they don't care anymore. And then the worst case scenario is games like Duelyst, WildStar, stuff like that, where, if the game isn't just inherently virally successful, then they just give up. And that's so much time and effort that they think it's not worth it to promote it, to do commercials, to have tournaments for, and maybe it's not. I don't actually know the metrics. I don't know if it is worth it, but what I do know is what kills these games is not trying at all. Hey, at least Hi-Rez attempts. And if the game flops or fails, or they do some update and everyone hates it, whatever, hey, at least they fucking tried. You can't blame them for that. But here, I don't think Duelyst tried. And I think a company like League of Legends, they know how to try. They know how to take risks. They know how to do this thing that is online gaming. Yeah, so I think a lot of people making CCGs, maybe it's easy. Maybe they, I don't know. They maybe are kind of designing a game with sort of a previous mentality of making like tabletop games, and they haven't really transitioned. Like maybe they made video games before, but making games as a service, something I say all the time, you gotta make the service, and that does mean spamming ads. That means spamming, new content. That means spamming us with tournaments and doing a lot of community events. That's it's very important. Debatably, I mean, if you look at mobile games, it is the most important thing, where that is what they focus on first and foremost. So I see the success of that, and I see the failure of this, and I'm just putting them together. So yeah, that's what I gotta say, guys. I am looking forward to League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra. I think it could be cool. It's probably the last CCG that I'll ever give a chance to, because I love auto chesses and stuff like that. But Duelyst, and then obviously Feria, recently also, canceling. I guess I'm done with CCG for the most part, and it really sucks because tactical CCG, PvP tactics games are really rare. I was really excited for it. A lot of them are coming out, and I guess, they were competing with Hearthstone and a few other games, and it just didn't work out. So maybe from Duelyst. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we saw like a Final Fantasy Tactics inspired game by Duelyst? That'd be pretty cool. But still, PvP tactics games, chess-like RPGs would be great. So I guess for now, it's just auto chess. But, it just sucks that Duelyst shut down. I was really excited. That's it, guys. I just rambled, and basically, I hate gambling games, and you won't see me really covering gacha games. You won't see me covering anything like card openings or anything like that. I think it's cancer, and yeah, if I see a YouTuber do it, I unsubscribe. I don't give a fuck anymore, and I think it's toxic to promote that sort of gameplay, because it's like anti-gameplay. Anyways, so in a way, yeah, I'm sad Duelyst shut down, but at the same time, I'm really glad that most CCG are failing. But then again, the ones that succeed, oh man, they're wailing so hard, and they are really, really greedy with their card openings. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully League of Legends can change that all around. I'll play it soon. Much love, guys. I'm done. See you in the next one.